Hi, my name's Shonagh and I'm one of the adventure experts at the Adventure People. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Simien Mountains in Ethiopia. I went to the Simien Mountains a couple of years ago, and it was one of the best treks, and I've done a lot of trekking. I worked for 10 years as a tour leader and I've did a lot of trekking in that time, and it just blew my mind. Like, I would recommend it to anyone that's interested in going somewhere a little bit more off the beaten track, or obviously seeing the area. East Africa, it's just outstanding. I did it at the last minute because one of the tour leaders, so I led the tour, she had to drop out for reasons that happen sometimes, so it was quite last minute. So I didn't actively choose to do it. I'd never heard of it, and I say that as someone that's quite involved in the industry and really interested in my own. I do a lot of trekking myself, and I'd never heard of it, and I couldn't believe how beautiful it was, how varied the experience was, just unbelievable. So the Simien Mountains are in the northwest of Ethiopia. You fly, I think it's just an hour's flight from Addis Ababa, where you'd probably fly in if you were flying internationally, which you probably would be. So you'd fly into the capital, which is a really modern city, really interesting museums. You can go up to viewpoints and have a really gorgeous view over the city. So you'd fly in there normally, and then you get a short transfer flight internally to the nearest airport, to the national park. And from there, off the top of my head, I think it's about 5 hours drive, but beautiful drive through kind of slowly coming into the highlands. And most of I think all of the treks there are between normally about 7 to 9 days, and then nearly all of them will go up to Ras Shen, which is the highest peak on the East African Horn, at 4,543 metres. So yeah, it's a great experience, obviously, with that in the middle of it to give you an aim. Anyone that's thinking about doing it should definitely have a look. If you're swaying, I don't know why you are. The best part for me, I think as a tour leader, it's maybe a little bit different. Obviously getting to the peak itself is a highlight for the majority of people, but there's a few best parts. Just the great thing about this trek is that it's very, very remote, which I love about anywhere that I feel really far away and really kind of away from my kind of day-to-day life. Obviously my day-to-day life when I was a tour leader was slightly different, but you feel you're just walking through a totally different world from yours, and you're walking through villages because it's a really remote, but there is still quite a lot of villages on the way, very small villages, very basic, and all of the people there are hours and hours and hours from the nearest, even a shop selling bottled water, like 4 or 5 hours you would be. Having said that, on your tour you will have easy access to drinking water, but that was really amazing, and you have the opportunity occasionally to kind of go in and have a coffee ceremony, because where coffee originates in the region. So the coffee for Ethiopians is a really big deal, and it's like you have a tea ceremony in Japan, you have a coffee ceremony in Ethiopia, and you can do very high-end versions of these, but you can also do them in the Simien Mountains on the trek, just going through these tiny little villages, and the ladies will kind of invite you in, and chickens are running over your little teacups, and you're like, thanks very much. It's just this kind of experience you can't pay for, really. It's just that I love the mix of just being so far away and also so welcomed by a community so different from your own life. So that was a highlight, and the hardest day is definitely the peak, but it's not. You have a lot of time to acclimatise on the trek. It's not like up by any means. You're kind of going along quite a lot of it, and then you'll have quite a bit of descent, which you've got plenty of time to acclimatise. So if you're reasonably fit, you'll probably be able to be able to handle it. So if you've never hiked before, this is quite an intense first experience. So it's maybe like, yeah, I've done quite a lot of this by myself, but and now I'm ready for a little bit of a bigger challenge. But if you haven't, you can absolutely achieve it. You just need to be more aware of how much you need to prepare beforehand, and obviously just get in touch with us, and we can help you with that. So the accommodation it's camping, and it's going to be fairly simple camping. When you are kind of have set you haven't done it, like you'll arrive and you'll have a team with you generally, well not generally, that will have, you'll get to your campsite and all your tents will be up. You'll have a dining tent and there'll be a separate kitchen tent. They'll normally have a cup of tea ready for you, probably a snack, and then your dinner quite shortly after that, because you'll be ready to go to bed. But you'll just be camping, and there is bathrooms, but they are very simple. Having said that, it's great to have a bathroom. Yeah, but it's part of the charm of. It would feel very odd to do the tour and get to a really lovely hostel or like a lovely lodge. That would be, it has a feeling of being really far away from your day-to-day life, and that, I think that camping is, for me, I love camping. It would be something I would actively choose to do, and you probably have to be a little bit like that as well to really enjoy the trek. And you are camping normally quite close to villages, so I had quite a lot of times people would come over and the kids would be interested and all wanting their photo taken and this kind of thing. I was just stretching after one day on my camping mat outside the tent and the kids all came over and they started copying me. That was really cute. There was like 5 of them, and they were all just trying to do the downward dog. And it was really funny. So we had a little yoga class without being able to speak the language at all. It was great. That was a highlight, actually. Forgot about that one. Yeah, so it's camping. It's pretty simple, but it's part of the experience. Everybody is going to be affected by altitude when you don't have oxygen, unless you're Bolivian or you've grown up in Tibet. Then you're going to suffer in some way from having less oxygen. The majority of people are going to probably feel a little bit like sick, but just vaguely queasy, like you're on a bus that's kind of taking corners a little bit too fast, that kind of queasy for the first maybe day. And you're always going to find it harder to go up hills. And just if you've done any exertion, the first day probably in the shower, like you're drying yourself with a towel, you're like, wow, I'm knackered. But you do get over that, that gets better. But you're just going to have to take it slower, and it's really important to remember that. Be aware that you need more oxygen, so you're going to be feeling like you're out of breath, but you just breathe more, that works. So it's very unusual. I've led a lot of tours at high altitude for people to become worse than that. Like there's a few things that can happen that are much more severe, but just the fact that you're short of breath, it has no link to that. It just happens to everybody. But it's not a major issue having to breathe more often. It doesn't indicate that anything's going to happen, and it is very unusual, I would say. I took my own very warm sleeping bag. I think you need at least 4 seasons off the top of my head, and a warm jacket, fleece, washproof trousers, really good hiking boots with ankle support. You can't come in a trip like that if you don't have proper boots, and if you do, your tour leader's probably going to make you buy some. A good day pack. You won't be carrying like your tent or anything like that. There's normally mules on the trek. You'll have a big team of mules that take all of your tent, your sleeping bag, your kind of next day's clothes. So you just need to take a kind of a good day pack, and obviously water bottle and a head torch as well, because you're camping quite remotely. You need to be able to see at night. And there's one day when you're going up to peak, you need to start very early in the morning, so you need a torch, definitely then, a good head torch. I mean, I've felt unsafe abroad, but never on a group holiday. Generally when I'm by myself, I didn't feel unsafe. You're always so close to the rest of the group, and your tents are really close together. When I say really, not like an inch. You feel like you've got the safety of the group, and you've got a really good team around you of local people that have just done this trek so many times. They feel like they're at home, so they know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, where to camp. It never occurred to me, and I believe that no one on the tour felt unsafe at any point. No, and in the cities as well. Like, there's really a pleasure to walk around. So if you're thinking about going to the Simien Mountains, then you can find some links below. We do a big variety of trips in the region. To Ethiopia itself as well is a really, really interesting country to visit outside of the Simien Mountains, so you can link the trek with seeing a lot of different parts of the country. If you're not sure how to do that, please get in touch, see the links below. Any questions at all about Ethiopia or the Simien Mountains, then also give us a ring, send us an email. You can chat online on our website if you visit that, and thanks for watching.